Hello and welcome to the channel. Sorry for the long overdue video, but just been busy with other stuff, working on customs that hopefully we'll be able to post soon. But yeah, this video was long overdue. This is the custom of the Mattel Masterverse Revelation He-Man. And yeah, let's get to it. The first thing I want to mention is, of course, this figure as shown in some works in progress previously. He obviously has a different head than what came standard with the figure. The head that comes with the figure is currently with the one that I replaced it with, which is this one right here. And there he goes. So this is the original head, right? That I replaced it with one of the Origins heads that come with the original head sculpt from the 80s, right? So this is the first thing that I did on this figure. Originally, I had given him the Origins head, the one that came first, not the vintage one, right? So the original Origins figures had slightly longer hair. That was my initial plan, but after consideration, I went with the classic looking head instead. So that's the first step. The overall look that I was going for with the figure, though, is pretty much the Filmation look, you know, from the cartoon of the 80s, right? And you can see that the harness that he's got on is actually a version of the harness from the cartoon that didn't have the red squares. Let me bring in quickly, not the same figure, but a different one of the Origins line. So this is you can see the Origins figures have the red squares on the harness. So I took one of these figures and used that harness to make this one. I just with a you know, with an X-Acto knife, I carefully, you know, little by little went slicing off the red squares until I got a clean look like I do now. I had to be really careful not to dig in too much into the plastic, otherwise I would probably not get a smooth finish. There is some minor you know, scalloping, you could say, that unless you hit it perfectly with the light, you probably won't even notice it. But for the most part, I think I got a pretty clean look. So yeah, that's the harness, right? So that's taken from an Origins figure. Everything else, oh well, I'll get to the axe in just a second, but everything else is from the actual Revelation figure. So, oh, and the head. The second thing that I did on this figure was decide how I was going to recolor the figure. Again, worth mentioning, the original color of the skin on the figure was very orangish, you could say. It's very it wasn't an attractive color. It almost made him look sick, right? I'm trying to look for something to compare, and I actually have the packaging for the figure with the original, the second fists. So let me see. So this is one of the fists, right, that comes with the figure, and you can see just by comparing the skin tones, right, how different the skin color is. Let me get closer. Right. So yeah, the original skin tone was just not good. So that was the second thing that I was going to have to do on this figure, and the way I went about it is just a complete repaint. So I had to do it. I had to separate it parts, right? So obviously the head comes off easily. It's on a ball joint. Then I had to separate the arms. I'm looking for something. So to separate the arms, the biceps, I put them in. I put the figure in boiling water. Once I got the plastic soft enough, you can pull out the arms here at the biceps, and the legs at the hips. They've got a ball joint system, so you can remove the legs at the hips, and the boots. You can separate the figure at the boots as well. And of course, since it has spare hands, you can pull those out as well easily. So once I took all of that apart, I painted everything with an idea to paint him basically like to get a skin tone that is closer to the vintage action figure. And again, let me pull in my vintage He-Man figures that I have here. My original vintage figures from the 80s. So their skin tone is very natural looking, right? So I couldn't quite match it. You can see here, right? The skin tone isn't also an exact match. So instead, what I decided to do, which in part helped with the idea for his harness, was to paint him like the cartoon. And the cartoon, He-Man had a darker skin tone compared to his when he's in Adam, when he's just regular Adam, Prince Adam. His skin tone is a little lighter, but once he transforms into He-Man, He-Man has a little darker skin tone. So that's the look I went with, and then that's when I came up with the idea to do the harness like the cartoon. And then after the way I applied the paint was all by hand. I had to mix. I explained it in another video, but I'll go over it again. It's not the same brush that I used, but just an example. So I mixed my own paint. I applied the paint in sections, right? I will let the paint dry for a little bit, and then using a blow dryer, I would dry it out to the point where it was almost all dry, and then with a makeup brush, a round makeup brush, I would then just smooth it out to get an even coat, you could say, even spread, and try and minimize any brush strokes. So that's how I went about the whole figure, you know, and then I would then apply a clear coat, and once the clear was completely dry, I went in with dry pastels to add the shading at the different points of the, at the muscle, at the musculature, right? So I'm going to just get a little bit closer here, and I'm going to remove the axe. Again, we'll get to the axe in a bit. So this is from the back of the figure. All right. So I'm just going to quickly flip out the the the, the harness here over his head, so that you can see how it looks underneath. Now you're gonna see some flaking, some gray paint flaking. That's from the inside of the harness. Originally I had painted the entire harness, both outside and inside, but the paint was sticking to the figure, and you can see right here, you can see some gray paint right there. But that just, I can just flick that off, because again, the figure already has another coat of clear over it, so it's not gonna ruin it. But I tried to remove as much of the paint on the inside as possible, but some still sticks to it. But you can see here, right? You can see all the shading done, right, on the chest. So again, with dry pastels, just grind it down to a dust. Get a really fine tip brush, and just apply it on into the different crevices on the figure. Right. So you can this part, since the toughest part for the figure itself is trying to get the paint underneath the parts here of the upper body that can't separate, can't split, right? So painting these areas down here was the toughest. There you go. You can see all of the dry brushing that went into it. Well, not dry brushing, the the shading that went into it. So let me just put this back on. It's a big chunk here. So I'm gonna have to redo this harness later. But for now, there's a good chances I need to get the a close up on the face. Okay. Camera focus. So as I explained in the previous video, when I was doing the final touches on this guy, when I repainted the eyes and everything, I hadn't noticed that there was a part of the paint that washed over into the inside of his eye here. So it almost makes him look like he's a little cross-eyed. But from certain angles you can't really, from a distance you can't really tell. But I can always go back in and correct that. I just, haven't gone back in and done it. I can do that, later. Or I can just, try a second head and just make it better, But this came out, I think it came out pretty good. I was going for a semi-realistic look, but also, again, with the animation look. It's almost like a blend of the two, almost, you know, attempting a classics look, right? So all in all, I think it turned out well. I gave him a wash on his blonde hair. Now, the only thing that, again, that I had mentioned previously that looks weird is he's got a little neck because the original the original head, since it's smaller, they made a smaller neck for to so that it would go well with the original head. So that's the only drawback from this custom or this using this body. That the neck looks a little disproportionate compared to the rest of the with the head and the body. So next, his I wanted to decide what colors I was going to paint his bracers and his belt. So I didn't want to go with a standard like orange to go with the like the Origins look or the or the original that have the orange. And I didn't want to go gold either, so I went in between. So it's pretty much a copper like color, but this is a blend that I made, a custom color, using gold, orange, stand a gold color, and then added some orange into it, and then some minimal drops of red, and I got this color, which kind of looks kind of like a copper color. I'm trying to remove this flake here. There we go. So yeah, I think it turned out pretty cool. I'll take a look at this one. I have to remove the shield, and let's talk about the shield first, and then we'll talk about the sword. So the shield, I was debating if I wanted to do like some battle damage and all of that, and I went against it. I just wanted to keep it clean. So I just the only thing that I did was repaint the shield. It's not the same color as the harness. It's a different gray. And I just went with a dark gray, the same red as the red cross here, and then the same gold color, copper color as on the belt and the bracers. On the inside, I painted. Well, let me just. The easiest way is to pull out the fist. Okay. This figure over time has become real loose. So on the inside here. On the inside, I painted the strap. Everything was just in the solid gray color. So I painted the straps brown, and then the points where it's joint to the shield, I painted those in that copper color, and then this part here is the same. I believe I think that's a different type of gray also. So I used the two different types of grays here. Okay. And I did give this a high gloss finish. The figure itself does have a matte finish, but it's still reflective. And I've mentioned in previous videos how I'm thinking of switching from that matte finish that I've been using I did get another one. I haven't used it yet, so I'm gonna see how that works. And then here's a look at the other bracer, right? So the longer bracer, he on the inside I did the same. I painted the straps brown, and I painted on the inside of the bracer as well to match. So to give this a like a leather color, and I just added some silver dots there for like the locking points, you could say, where the bracers strap onto. And the power sword, or the sword of Grayskull, or however you want to call it. So the sword is a complete repaint as well. Actually, the sword, the original paint on the sword started to flake off from placing it in the on the back of the original harness, the figure's harness. The paint started to flake off, so that's when I decided to I said, well, I'm gonna have to repaint the whole thing. So I repainted it all in a chrome color, although the chrome didn't, it's not like a mirror chrome. It kind of looks like a silver, so it fits well with the motif. But you can see it's pretty reflective. There is some slight imperfections there. It almost makes it, and I'll speak with it. I'll talk about this also with the axe. It almost gives it like it is made of iron, right? The sword. So yeah, and instead of like being smooth steel, right? Makes it almost look like it's an iron made of a sword made of iron. And then let's bring in the axe. The axe is from one of the Origins figures. Obviously, this figure didn't come with an axe. There is an axe that comes with the Savage He-Man. So eventually, I'll get that one, and then give it to this guy. It's just basically the same axe, only like longer. With this guy, I also gave it the chrome paint, although a different brand. And at the end, I gave it like a quick spritz to give it like that harsh, bumpy look that you can see. Again, to mimic the look of like steel or iron or whatever, because this whole pieces here were smooth originally on the molding. So again, it just after giving it a fine coat of the chrome at the end, just add some spritz, quick spritz to give it like that dotted look, and then once it dries, it gives that finish. And at the end, I just rubbed off some of the finish on it. Yeah, I think it looks good. So since the even though the handle is pretty much like 5 millimeters and whatever, it's still a little loose on the fists from the Revelation figures. So this is pinstriping tape from for cars. Then I just wrapped around the handle so that it can fit in his hand. It's still a little loose, but he can hold it on pretty good. And then the last thing I did was on the boots. The boots, I painted the leather straps around the boots. That's the same color brown as the straps on the shield. Right. And I mentioned the looseness on this guy after repeated after taking the legs apart and everything, after repeated use, it kind of lost its tension. I tried to heat up the parts again with a hair dryer, to try and get the plastic back to its normal state. But it still ended up being a little loose. So I don't know if it was because of the customization or that's just how the figures will eventually turn out for on everyone. I don't know, but yeah, I'm gonna have to apply something to get those joints to get a little stiffer. But yeah, so that's pretty much it with this guy. It's for someone who missed out on the classics releases, from a few years ago by Mattel and then Super 7. The Revelation figures are a good alternative if you know want to get uh, 1/12 scale versions of He-Man, or if you're just content with the Origins lines. That's cool also. But again, if you want to have a larger 6-inch, 7-inch scale version of He-Man, the Revelation figures are a good alternative. The only downside I would say is both He-Man and Skeletor just could use different heads, and a good solution to that is one, of course, swapping out one of the heads from an Origins figure, or you can wait for the upcoming wave. What is it, 3 or 4? I'm not sure. They're gonna be like the Viking He-Man and the Barbarian Skeletor that have alternate heads that almost look, that they would fit um, a standard looking He-Man. So you can get this figure and then get the upcoming releases and just use the alternate heads to pop on your He-Man figure. Or you can, but in the meantime, you can just use one of the Origins heads. And also, so I'm while I've been working on that, I'm still working on the Skeletor as well. Um, I'll post. I'm working on that, and I'll post a video on that guy in the future. And that's pretty much it for this guy. So yeah, it's a cool custom. It's nothing too involved, because other than, well, I mean, it's involved in the sense that you do have some work to do if you want to get this particular look, right? You have to take off the squares from the harness. You have to repaint the head. If you're comfortable with the skin tone, original skin tone, you don't have to do anything. But if you're not, you're gonna have to repaint the whole body, and then that's up to you if you want to do the shading, right? But yeah, that's about it. So yeah, thank you for watching. It was a fun custom to work on, and hopefully you guys like the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. And I'll be checking you out, guys. That came out wrong. I'll be checking you out. I'll be checking you guys out in the next one. See ya.